Hello and welcome. I'm Wynn Helms, truth teller as much as I can, change seeker, and host of this podcast, Black Women North of 50. Thanks for joining me. Today we have Dr. Rashida N'goumba, who is a gynecologist and obstetrician, and she is going to break down everything about menopause that we need to know. It's not things that we don't talk about. It's not just hot flashes. It is something that happens in this season of our lives, making changes that are always going to be there. And it's not all bad. There are some benefits. Believe it or not, there are benefits. And she's going to talk about those too. Stay with me. As promised, I have Dr. Rashida N'goumba to talk to us about menopause. It's a topic that does get talked about a lot, and I'm really looking forward to getting some clearer answers about this whole stage in our life. So thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
You know, I'm not even sure where to start with the questions, to be honest with you. I want to talk about what we go through and how to deal with what we go through as we're going through it, and the lifespan of this particular part of our life. Is it something we go through forever, or what? It seems so complicated. I went online, which is probably a bad thing, and looked to see that menopause is kind of a process. Is that correct?
Correct. It's kind of like the reverse of puberty, if you will. It's backing up what happened during puberty.
Reverse of puberty? Is that what you said?
It's kind of the reverse of puberty in the sense that when you have puberty, you're ready for maturation, you're ready to reproduce. At the time that you're hitting menopause, that's where you're ceasing reproduction. And so you're kind of backing up, or just like you have to go through a process to go through puberty, you're definitely going to go through a process to end that reproductive cycle.
And it comes with so many symptoms that seem to be negative. At the same time, see, we talk about hot flashes and those kinds of things. What are some of the symptoms that don't necessarily get talked about?
I think some of the symptoms that we seem to miss frequently are muscle and joint aches and pains. That's a big one that is a heavy hitter for a lot of people. Things start aching when we get out of bed and we're like, hey, that didn't ache like it used to. It used to feel fine. Sometimes there are people that are complaining of dry mouth, dry eyes, dry genitals. That definitely happens. I think the dry genitals was more pronounced, but a lot of people are getting dryness in their mouth and their eyes. They feel like they can't get enough moisture in there. People are complaining of mental fog. A lot of the time, we're kind of losing momentum and steam. A lot of fatigue is big on the ticket. Some people get ringing in their ears, which is one of the more rare symptoms. Some people start to get dry skin that makes you itchy all over, which is kind of a weird symptom as well. But those are kind of the outliers.
Gosh, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not abnormal. This sounds real familiar. What about bone density?
So the bone density definitely goes down. When you're hitting menopause, you start to lose the production from your ovaries of estrogen and progesterone. And estrogen helps osteoblast. Osteoblasts are the bone cells that help to maintain and make and create new bone. And so when you lose the estrogen, you're losing that. And it also doesn't allow for the osteoclasts, who are the ones that come and crush bone, to die off quickly. So because of that, your bone density is going to decrease over time. That makes your bones more fragile. That means that when you fall, you might break something.
Yeah. And let's move into hormone replacement therapy. Is that helpful with bone density?
It absolutely is helpful with bone density. Hormone replacement therapy has been shown to reverse what we just talked about, increasing the osteoblast and decreasing the osteoclast. So you're making more bone and you're actually not destroying as much at the same time.
Okay. Let's talk about the dreaded what ifs of HRT. I know that there has been a lot written about breast cancer and HRT. What's your take on that?
So I will say that now that we're kind of in a new phase of hormone replacement therapy, when I was first coming out of medicine, we kind of were in the phase that everybody gets hormone replacement therapy. It's the fountain of youth. Everybody should get it for the rest of their lives. We did these large cross sectional studies where we checked women and then we realized, oops, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. And from there, we had a huge withdrawal of hormone replacement therapy. Since then, we have stopped using um, I would say manufactured or chemically made compounds, and we've moved more into the bioidentical compounds that come from a natural source and that have a more stable and I would say a more natural form of estrogen and progesterone that we're giving patients. We feel that those are safer than the chemically constructed compounds that we've done in the past. When you take estrogen in any form, but especially in the constructed forms, that estrogen is super strong and it's going to really attach onto the estrogen receptors in a way that the natural estrogens don't. That increases your risk of blood clots, typically. If you have hormone sensitive, especially estrogen positive breast cancer, if you give estrogen, it's going to make that worse. So that's kind of where you were getting that information from. What we also learned is if you don't give the synthetic progesterone, your risk of breast cancer is not going to be that much higher than the general population. And that's where you're seeing people that weren't having breast cancer, having breast cancer de novo from the use of progesterones long term. So those people that we weren't giving progesterones to in that study weren't seeing that higher risk of breast cancer.
Okay. That's good to know. And right at the break here, I just want to say to everyone that this is for information purposes only. Not that I don't believe Dr. N'goumba. It's just that it's really important for you to go to see your own physician and find out your specific needs and what's best for you. Isn't that
Absolutely.
right? Okay. Let's talk about the intersection of menopause and some emotional and mental changes that happen for women. I want to start by saying
Mhm.
that there was a full 18 months when was, I'm not going to use a swear word, but that was me. I was a witch. I, I had to close my door at work and not because I wanted to keep people out. I didn't want to subject them to my mood. What's going on there?
Um, so a lot of changes are happening, a lot of hot flashes, a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of people, which increases your fatigue. Your mental fog is there. And because of that, you're going to have a lot of hormone changes that lead to mood changes. It's kind of, really, if you think of it as a reverse of puberty, when you get those pubescent kids, they are just terrorists. They're all over the place. They don't know how to manage the hormonal milieu that their body is subjecting them to. It kind of is the same thing with hormones on the opposite end of the spectrum. The difference is that you have been used to hormones, you have been used to a cycle, you have been used to having all of this on board. And now, with the withdrawal of this, you're more uncomfortable in your own body, you're not getting enough sleep, you're fatigued on top of it, and your brain isn't functioning mentally the way that it's supposed to in terms of intellect. And when these things coincide and confluence all together, and especially when you're a woman of a certain age, you start to not care as much. And things just start to come out of your mouth that maybe they shouldn't. And just even the feelings that you wouldn't necessarily, you've been able to hold in as a younger person because you're able to take a lot more. You're like, you know what? I've been doing this for 10 years. And all of a sudden, everything is such a big deal. So it definitely does happen. It is a thing. Most people, when they get into a good regimen, especially where the sleep is improved, especially where the hot flashes are decreased, they tend to be able to balance their mood a lot better. Coming into these eras with mood disorders or mood imbalances or mental health challenges also is going to exacerbate or make these things worse.
Mm. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm listening and thinking, gosh, this is good information. I need to, well, I'll just replay it. Okay. Um, I guess when you were talking, I was thinking about all of the bad press we get from saying, oh, she must be going through menopause, as it's some kind of unnatural thing, some kind of unnatural part of our development as humans. Well, physical changes, let's just go there. What's with the belly fat?
um,
That's just wrong.
I like to think of it as two things. One is in the ovary does produce quite a bit of testosterone for you as well. So your testosterone levels are going to decrease as well. That testosterone gives you an ability to have leaner muscle and more muscle mass. So your muscle mass is going to decrease. As your muscle mass is decreasing, that volume is going to be replaced with something else. And that's going to be kind of your belly fat. If you were exercising exactly the same and eating exactly the same through the perimenopausal period, you're not going to see the same results because your hormone balance has been changing. So you definitely need to do more weights, like actually lifting of weights. I like to quote a doctor. It was a gentleman doctor, but what he said was when I saw him and I was like, "You didn't eat all day." He's like, "Yeah, but I'm not growing anymore." And I thought to myself, I'm not trying to grow anymore either. um, so sometimes you do need to tailor your caloric intake. I think that a lot of people think that once it comes, what you can do is just get on hormone replacement and it will just go away. That's not really what happens. What
Okay.
it does is that it has the ability to have a better effect on your regimen. So you still then need to be on a regimen. So you need to increase your exercise, you need to increase your protein intake, you need to increase your muscle mass. But it's not going to reverse them just in of I'm starting to take hormones and all of a sudden all my belly fat went away. That's not how that works.
The infomercials that say, take this and your body fat will go away, not so much.
I don't think that those things in and of themselves work. Um, we have all of these wonder drugs that we can take now to lose weight rapidly. We have kind of walked away from the basics, saying that maybe the basics don't work of calories in, calories out. I find that there are three things that are really helpful to maintaining and achieving the body morphic or the what you want your body to look like
Yeah, get
and
to it.
also be healthy. One is a whole food diet. That means eating things that don't have a lot of chemicals in them or are not subjected to a lot of chemicals, a lot of
Mhm.
processing. Because I truly believe that when your body is subjected to chemicals that it doesn't know what to do with, it's like, but I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save that for later. I'm gonna figure it out later and I'm gonna put it in the fat. And
Great.
so you start storing things in your fat that aren't even chemicals that your body can recognize and process, right?
Mhm.
The second thing is exercise. How much exercise are you doing? And also weightlifting. So I've recently gone through a change where I dropped some weight, but I lost all of my muscle mass because I was never a weightlifter. I never loved lifting weights. But then I realized I now have to start lifting weights because lifting weights is going to help to have that lean muscle and increase the amount of the better use of whatever you're intaking. So your muscles are going to burn your fat off for you as well. The last thing that people don't talk about a lot with being, not the weight that you want to be or the body shape that you want to be is your happiness quotient. Um, are you happy? And what kind of chemicals are you producing in your body that are allowing you to reach your ideal goal? If you're stressed out all the time, if you're miserable, if you're unhappy, your body is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to make you happy. I'm going to put on a little fat coat right there and I'm going to keep you nice and snug and you will be great. And so for some people's body, it works that way. And so those three things have to work all together. You can't just do one, you can't do the other. For some people, it works, but for the majority of the people, you kind of need all three of those things. Getting a trainer that can speak to you on all three levels with the nutrition, the exercise, and the happiness quotient will probably get you better results than you just sitting at home and taking some salt with some apple cider vinegar with some cayenne pepper, which is going to make your hot flashes worse anyway, and then trying to figure it out.
Well, I got to say, the happiness quotient comes for me when I'm not exercising and I'm eating a lot of trans fat. I'm screwed, huh?
That is a brain retrain because there's definitely foods that our bodies have been become accustomed to that are releasing endorphins because it's making you happy. And I'm not saying you shouldn't ever eat these things. What I'm saying is you need to limit them because your body does not know how to process them properly.
Mhm. I knew you were going to say that, but I had to ask. Let's see. I was doing just looking at various people talking about menopause, and something that doesn't really get talked about. And actually, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. It's another stage in our lives where the kids are out of the house, and we are maybe dealing with aging parents. And at the same time, there's time to look in and sort of figure out who we are and who we want to be for this next season of our lives. When you see some of your patients, what kinds of things do they tell you? Do they talk about benefits at all, or they just come to you because they don't feel good?
The major benefit is, woohoo, can't get pregnant, not going to have another baby. For those empty nesters, for those people that didn't get started late, which I think is a very small portion of my population right now, they feel comfortable and happy. A lot of us are in the sandwich generation. We have smaller kids and we have aging parents, and that then puts a lot more pressure on us. And then our tempers get a lot shorter. Our tolerance gets a lot shorter. Um, I see people happy that they don't have to wear pads anymore or worry about, like, let me check, is it something leaking?
Let me sit down and let me look up this chair for a second. Okay.
Um, the other thing that I see people that choose not to do hormones that are happy with is that once they reach a steady state, because it does take a couple of years sometimes to get there, they feel like, okay, I got this. I'm not going to go up and down. I'm not going to have, sometimes people have severe pain with their period. Sometimes people have severe mood swings with their period. That kind of evens out and stops happening.
Mhm. People have told me about breakthrough bleeding that happens sometimes. What are the causes of that? Just depends on the
So
person.
Um, most people with uteruses are the only ones that are going to talk about that, because if you don't have a uterus, you're not going to have breakthrough bleeding. So those
Sure.
people that have had hysterectomies probably aren't going to have that problem. Yay for them. For the other portion of the population that still has their uterus, breakthrough bleeding is more of a term that we use when we're on birth control pills, meaning we have unscheduled bleeding.
Mhm.
When you are on hormone replacement therapy, you are still taking estrogen and progesterone. The estrogen is something that is going to stimulate the lining of the uterus. If you're not taking enough progesterone, if you're not taking it in a good timing, then you can have unscheduled bleeding or that breakthrough bleeding that you're talking about.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can have other conditions inside of the uterus. So that always needs to be brought to the attention of your provider and evaluated. You can have uterine polyps. You can have uterine cancer. You can have things that aren't even part of your quote unquote uterus, meaning it can be a cervical issue, cervical cancer, or something like that. So it definitely always needs to be evaluated. But with hormones, you have estrogen and progesterone that are in a balance. If you think of estrogen as blocks and bricks, the more you put in, the more you put in, the more you put in. And then progesterone is going to be your mortar. It's going to kind of hold it in for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so if you're on cyclical progesterone, which means you're not taking it all the time continuously, you're going to expect that once you take away that mortar, the whole entire brick structure is going to come out. And that's when you should have your period. It's only when the brick structure overgrows the mortar and there's not enough mortar or not enough progesterone around that you're going to experience that unscheduled or breakthrough bleeding.
Got it. Okay. In terms of Black women who tend not to seek medical attention as much as white women, is my guess. What can we tell them aside from find a doctor and get some help?
Well, I think that that becomes the end story for pretty much everybody, especially women of color, because they tend to have more endometrial cancer or uterine cancer than their counterparts. And so to not get to care is can be catastrophic and detrimental. We also tend to have more fibroids, which are usually benign tumors. I like to think of us as being very strong because the uterus is a muscle, and if you have muscle tumors, you must be stronger. However, sometimes those fibroids can turn into cancer themselves, a type of cancer that is very aggressive called sarcoma. So, again, all of these things are saying go seek medical attention. In this country, sometimes that requires money. Sometimes and it always requires time. I can't tell you how many people say, well, I don't have the money for this. And what I say to the people that say they don't have the money for this is, do you have the money for the other thing? Do you have the money for cancer? Sometimes it's not a immediate answer of it's just I have the money or I don't have the money. I would say, and this is a little known secret, most doctors are going to kill me for saying this, but like we usually don't take money up front. The hospital doesn't take money up front.
Okay.
Meaning you can get on a payment plan. You can figure out how to afford your care over time. If you cannot afford your care, right now, today, still maybe a little bit, you may be able to get some insurance that can bridge the gap and some help and assistance that can bridge the gap. There are community clinics. They are not the best, but they're care. And when I say they're not the best, they are in the sense that they're treating everybody and they're getting everybody in there. But, they're not going to be a private doctor where, you're going to be able to speak for an hour and just sit down. That does cost a little bit more money. But, when you're talking about your life, how much is your life worth? Can you put an actual price tag on it? Because it is going to be worth that $300 that you're going to pay for the doctor's visit, somewhere between $100 to $300 if you're paying out of pocket for most reasonable physicians. When I say reasonable, not reasonably priced, but like in most areas, you can find a physician that will take care of you for around that price or something like that. And even just getting in. Sometimes we're worried about how much it's going to cost down the road, and we're not really worried about, and we're like, well, right now, today, I can only afford this. Um,
Tell me about some good questions people can ask doctors so they don't get dismissed. Like, oh, it's just, it's just menopause, it's normal, blah, blah, blah. And because that happens a lot if you don't advocate for yourself.
I think that that does feel like the answer sometimes. It depends. If you're in the care of a physician that kind of doesn't believe in HRT, then or doesn't prescribe HRT, they may not be thinking about along the lines of HRT. So finding a physician that is willing to prescribe HRT is your first issue. There are probably tons of "Are you having perimenopause or menopausal symptoms?" quizzes. Love the quizzes. Some things that I don't like about the quizzes are that some stuff is not your menopause. If you've been having insomnia since you were 20, it's probably now not menopause at 50 because you're going through the change of life. You had insomnia, you always had insomnia. Now it may not get better or it may be worse, but you had an underlying condition. Having said that, I do think that it's important that you find a care provider that is going to be willing to prescribe you hormone replacement therapy. Somebody that's willing to listen to all of your medical conditions, what your symptoms are, and give you options on how to fix them, because it's not always HRT or only HRT that's going to help, right? I have patients that come in and they say, listen, like my husband died and I haven't been able to sleep. And I'm like, that may not only be menopause. Maybe we need to do other things to get you to where you want to be. Or they're saying, you know what, I want to be on hormone replacement therapy because I don't want the wrinkles. Um, uh,
Because collagen is a big, goes down too. Is that correct?
right, because
Mhm.
estrogen stimulates collagen and elastin production. So not only is your skin going to be more moisturized and be firmer, it's going to have a little bit more give to it. It's not just sit there. And also progesterone as well is going to help out with that for some people and give you a little bit more oil and moisture.
And collagen isn't something that you have to go to a doctor for, or am I wrong?
So you can do topical collagen. There are some benefits to taking topical collagen treatments. You can ingest collagen. It seems that both of those actually do have some benefit. Are they going to be as beneficial as hormone replacement? Not really sure that they've done the head-to-head trials on that. I will say in this newer age of hormone replacement therapy with bioidenticals and the different ways that you're getting them in, there are not a lot of studies that were as big as the studies back in the day within the synthetics that give us that information. But you
Mhm.
can do that. You can do hyaluronic acid. You can do that topically. I've seen some people ingesting hyaluronic acid, which also increases and improves the moisture in your skin.
Mhm.
and topically. You can do these both vaginally, the hyaluronic acid as well. So there are benefits and ways to do this topically that do have some effect.
Let's blow some sunshine in this. Some of the benefits of going through menopause. We talked about all the things that happen and some things that happen and some things we can treat. Afterwards, I just want to punctuate some of the good things about menopause, if you'll do that.
Well, it really just depends on how you want to live your life and how you see living your life. I will definitely say that our longevity is a lot longer now as women for various reasons. One, we're not having as many children, so we're not dying in childbirth as much. Um, we are tending to not have as many health problems that aren't being taken care of. So our lifespan is longer. I think that if you go back to more rural societies, sometimes the lifespan of the woman is maybe around 50. And so they don't really have a long time after menopause. It just depends on which culture, obviously. And so at this point, I think women are kind of saying there are things that I don't feel good about, and it doesn't make me feel like me and normal. And I want to normalize these things. And that's where that hormone replacement therapy comes in to normalize some of the aging in our body, because HRT does seem to have some effects with aging. It's not going to reverse aging, but it's going to make you feel better during that menopausal time period. Um, we did talk about, the cessation of menstruation and any menstrual problems that you might have. If you have fibroids, they're going to shrink if you're not doing hormone replacement therapy and you're in menopause. So that's also a good thing for some people. For some people, they have some issues with endometriosis, which is a condition of chronic pain, and that will get better if you're not doing hormone replacement therapy and you're not in menopause and you're in menopause. But most of the things that I think are the best things really have to do around the functioning of the menstruation for
Mm.
people. And then some people feel that, because of their lifestyle, their kids may be out of the house if they chose to have kids, they are now hitting their stride and feeling more comfortable in their skin. But again, that transition, that puberty time, that reduced puberty time still has to kind of settle out and ease out for them. But I do find that people are enjoying themselves more. They have more money. They know what they want to do. They know what makes them happy.
It seemed as though maybe in the 60s and 70s, doctors were just kind of yanking uteruses. They sort of didn't pay any attention to what was actually going on. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that they were yanking uteruses, although I have heard that term before and it's a hot button term. And it happened a lot in the minority community. That was a direct relation to how people were treated, but also we had a high risk of fibroids in our community. And so there weren't very many treatment for fibroids other than kind of taking out your uterus. That's going to
Got
be
it.
definitive. And a lot of people were like, I'm bleeding all over the place. I'm getting blood transfusions. I don't want this. Like, I'm done. And so they were happy to be done and not have to worry about that.
Okay.
Nowadays, we have so many other alternative treatments, especially for fibroids and irregular bleeding and pain around the time of menstruation and endometriosis, that we don't feel the need to necessarily remove this whole entire womb unless that's something that somebody wants as a definitive treatment.
The interaction between HRT and antidepressants, anti-anxiety
Mhm.
medications, is that something that's person to person?
I think that is always going to be person to person because some people are never going to need these type of other mental health medications or they choose not to take them. Some people choose to take them instead of doing HRT with their mood and their mental health changes around the time of menopause. So it just really depends on who it is. And as much as we want to standardize, if I give you this dose, this is what's going to happen. Everybody's body is a unique container with unique genetic predispositions, with unique factors in life that are going to affect the outcome. And then also what the person thinks and how they feel about their outcome.
And for the person who really just wants a natural path, doesn't want hormone replacement therapy, would rather use vitamins, herbs, etc. What's your take on that?
So if you're taking vitamin D because you're vitamin D deficient, you're now taking medication for vitamin D. If you're taking collagen because you want to treat something, it then becomes a treatment and it's medication. Whether it's FDA approved or regulated becomes a whole different conversation. Uh, I think that is absolutely normal. It's absolutely fine. There are ways to make it happen. There are ways to improve your lifestyle and how you feel with herbs, vitamins, and supplements. But as I said, they're not FDA approved or regulated. So somebody could be making them in their kitchen. As far as the herbs are concerned, maybe this year's batch is going to be stronger than last year's batch because there was a drought, or maybe you're getting it from this place and now you're going to get it from this place. So the inter reliability, meaning that it's always the same thing, always the same dose, is not going to necessarily be the same. And the studies aren't always there, and there are some to back up the benefits across the board.
Got it.
Obviously, if you're low in vitamin D and you take vitamin D and your vitamin D gets a lot higher, then obviously that's a different kind of story. But taking black cohosh, I have plenty of patients that take black cohosh and they're completely fine and they're just better and they feel like all of their menopausal symptoms went away. Their hot flashes are great and they're fine. And then some people are like, yeah, that was like water. It didn't do anything for me. So it just really depends. Again, your container is going to be different. And this is why seeking medical care, appropriate medical care, is very important, because that's where the tailoring to you as a person happens between you and your provider.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. N'goumba. This has been very informative. Once again, informative purposes only. Wise suggestions. See your own doctor is the bottom line on this, right?
Right. And if you have trouble finding a healthcare provider, you can always go to the health department. You can go to the hospital if you need to, and especially in a case of acute emergency, and they can direct you. There are local health clinics that can help, that take little or no or sliding scale insurance. They may not be able to get everything done, but they sometimes can just point you in the right direction to where you need to be. There's a lot of telehealth services for people that don't have services in their community. Some of these things can be done remotely.
Mm. And where can we find you?
Oh, I am in Pasadena, California, sunny Pasadena, California. I am online at Simply OBGYN of Pasadena.com. And you're always welcome to drop us a note. We definitely do phone calls. We're old school. So
Nice. I love
calling
old
us
school.
is always a nice thing. You can always email us at simplyobgyn, the number one, at gmail.com.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so very much. This has been informative and, oh gosh, so real.
There's always tons of questions and there's always research coming out and always different ways to do these things. I just want to say one last thing about hormone replacement therapy that people may not know. There are different ways to get hormone replacement therapy, including oral, on your skin, or transdermal, intravaginal. Some people are doing what you would kind of think of as lozenges or troches. And then there's people that are doing injectables like into the muscle. And then there are people that are doing pellets. So there are many, many different ways to get hormones into your body. So just be aware of the different ways and ask tons of questions. If you don't even know what questions to ask, I know it sounds stupid to go into AI and to go into
Yep.
Google, but you can say, what questions should I ask that'll be relevant to my condition? Um, and they can give you a list of questions, and coming to the doctor with questions is always a great idea. The doctor or provider may not be able to answer your questions because there may not be answers.
Mm.
But rest assured, the person that is willing to say, hey, you know what, that's not known, is something that is not necessarily on the provider, but it's just what happens sometimes.
I'm so
Something
glad you brought that up. I'm very 20th century and would not have thought about Chat GPT as a good place to find answers, but it is. What are you going to
I
do?
don't necessarily think answers specific to you, but
Questions.
just questions and a starting point. If you
Yes.
like no idea, you're like, what question should I ask my doctor?
Thank you for
For people
clarifying.
that are having concerns, I always have them I have a questionnaire about perimenopause. Sometimes people think they're going through perimenopause and they answer all the questions. No, 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 no. And they were like, well, I thought I was going through perimenopause. And I was like, well, I don't think you are. Tell me what are your symptoms? Just have to be careful there, because sometimes when you go to a provider with a diagnosis for yourself, like, I know I'm having this, then sometimes the providers just treat that thing and they're not looking at the whole person and thinking, well, maybe it's not really this, it's that.
Mhm.
So going with your symptoms of how you feel, what's happening in your life is a much more helpful way to get everything taken care of than to be like, well, I know because I looked and this is what it said I have, so now I equal this. Unfortunately, most of our bodies don't read the book well.
Yeah. I have to go back and I can't believe I did that faux pas of no, don't go to ChatGPT to get a diagnosis. It's just a great place to find questions to ask your doctor.
Right.
Being a
Um,
psychotherapist, I've had people go in and try and get diagnoses through ChatGPT, which is no, don't do that. Uh,
No, but it's a great place to be like, what questions should I ask? Because I
yes.
have no idea where to start. How can I start the conversation so that I'm heard? I think more than anything, some people don't even want treatment as much as they want acknowledgement. I find a lot of my patients are like, I just want to know I'm not crazy and that this is actually happening. And then when you line up the treatment options, they're like, yeah, I don't really want to do any of that. Uh,
Mm.
which comes back to, if you are going to a provider and you want resolution and solutions, whatever it is, it's not going to be what you were doing right now. Because you came in with a problem, right? So
Yeah.
there has to be some type of change. It just is, where do you want to be on that spectrum? Does it want to be food and exercise and diet, and let's try it that way? Is it going to be supplements? Is it going to be herbs? Is it going to be medication that's FDA approved? You know, but there's something for everybody in there, and you do not have to suffer in your space. And I think that for me is the most important thing. Are you suffering in your space?
Mm.
That nobody needs to do.
Right. Quality of life. You want to look at that. Yeah.
Because the menopausal time at this point for all of us is going to be, if you're lucky to live that long, almost as long as your premenopausal time period.
That makes
So if
sense,
you're
doesn't it?
living to like 80, 90, and you go through menopause, average age is like 51 in the United States, you're going to have a long time of being menopausal.
Which is the good news in terms of life gets better when when you don't care about what you say to people.
Well, you become more honest, you become more unburdened, you don't take it into yourself, you don't weather yourself with these things, you release it into the ether.
That's exactly right. You become more confident and you're not pressed about things as much as you are when you were younger, which is always a good thing.
Definitely.
Dr. N'goumba, thank you very much.
It has been my pleasure.
Many thanks to Dr. Rashida N'goumba for talking us through menopause being way more than just hot flashes, a season in our lives that gets downplayed as bad. Um, it is difficult for us, and yet we live to tell it. So isn't that good? There are some challenges and there are some benefits. Being able to walk through your life with a little more confidence and tell things as they really are, as opposed to sugarcoating them because you care about someone else's opinion, all that. Once again, these were the opinions of Dr. N'goumba. This is for information purposes only. If you're seeking any kind of medical attention, go to your own doctor. It may be menopause, it may not. Whatever. Don't take this as the end all be all of what's going on with you. So please seek medical attention. Once again, keep living a good life, uncovering your joy, and please find the funny every day. We need it bad. Until next time, take good care.